Hey guys, Tygel here coming at you with a very special video. Logjam is a 5 control points map for TF2 with competitive 6v6 in mind. It's been played in competitive leagues such as ETF2L and continues to be played in Australia's league, Oz Fortress. As with every map, it took some time and many iterations to get to where it is today. And what's really cool is that I had the privilege of having the map's creator, Hyce, walk me through early versions of the map, telling me why he made certain design decisions and explaining why certain things on the map changed over time. It's awesome to see how far this map has come, and even better to get such great insight from the map's creator. Speaking of which, from now on you won't be hearing a whole lot from me, but from Hyce himself. So let's just get right into it.
Alright, here we are. This is CP Uinta A2, which is the first version of Logjam that still exists, really. It was originally CP Stag A1, and if you read the very beginning of the thread, CP Stag was taken and I didn't know, so I changed it to CP Uinta, and we lost version A1 to time, but A2 is very similar, minor little changes. As you can see, from the very start, last was kind of the focus point of design. It was the thing I sketched out on the napkin during class first. In my freshman year of college was when I started to make this map, and the first thing that I sketched out was the spawn room doors being at the 45-degree angles that they are, and that persists to this day. But last has always been generally set up the same, a low shutter in the middle and the two other entrances, one perpendicular and one flat out. It changes a little bit over time, but it's been this way for a long time. The interesting thing about early versions of Logjam / Uinta is that the map is kind of a letter Z in shape. The original design idea that I had was to take the S and just push it a little further and see if that could give some fast gameplay, fast rotation between points. And maybe that still is possible, but in my experience, the problem that we incurred was that people would just forget about taking the two side routes, and they would take the closest route on the inside to mid. But the three routes approach has always kind of been in Logjam. You've got the main route down the middle and then two flanks on either side. And Cave has been there from the very beginning, and it only took me approximately 6.5 years and probably 60, 70 versions of the map to finally kill Cave, as the current version, RC12F, no longer has Cave. But definitely big, open, and not very well thought out from the beginning. I didn't really have a good design for mid or second, other than I wanted Spire, because that's what everyone likes, right? Add 5 and all that. So, wasn't terribly well thought out from the beginning, but humble beginnings, here it is. So this is Alpha 6. This is not too long beyond Alpha 2. Alpha 2 came out December 24th, 2013. This is March 20th, 2014 now. And you can see that we've added the wall that still exists on current Logjam, and the format still stays the same. We've got heights on both sides of the point, the 3 entrances, and even kind of a prelude to Secret. Of course, it didn't connect that way, but the entrance is still there. The big change on this one is beyond lobby and out to second. This is where we see Spire for the first time as more of a true Spire than what it was before, where it was just a bit sticking out in the midst of the grass. And as well, this is the first time you see Logjam's signature choke. This has been the design for a long time. The original design intent was, okay, well, if you put a steep ramp in choke, you don't keep a roof on it, and you make it curvy so that you don't have any sight lines, you can send soldiers flying through on the mid at high speed and keep things fluid without having crazy sight lines. I always liked the process style choke, but the fact that it was a hard 90 to go through kind of limited how quickly you could go through, so I wanted to encourage explosive jumping and encourage roaming soldiers and demo men to make cool plays, because I thought that was the coolest part of the game at the time. So I wanted to facilitate that and make it a fast-played map, so that was kind of where that came from. And mid feels a little bit more like it does even in present day. The entrances are kind of similar to how they are, and you have height in places that we still do. But mid's going to go through about 16 different versions. The big note on this version was that we tried to fix the short cycle through to the point by taking the shortest route and making it a little bit longer, and also putting it as an underpass, so that you do have to take a little bit longer to run to the point that way to keep the routes equal. Although it wasn't terribly successful still, so ultimately we will end up scrapping the hard Z shape for the more straight shape that Logjam now has. Cave, this side, this flank wasn't really used still because it wasn't terribly accessible, particularly from the one side, but one of the fun things is that up until RC12, when we got rid of this connector, the shape of this room, barring minor changes, is pretty much exactly as it is up through RC11. This kept itself. The ramp and the connector beyond this door will change, but the way this room flows has been the same for a long, long time. Okay, this is Alpha 7, and this is one where Last is really kind of coming into its own. The doors do change a little bit, and they're a little different than what we see today, but the ramp setup, having the one forward ramp on the left and the one progressing ramp up on the right, from Defender's perspective, this is how the map still exists to this day. It's been this way for a long time. This version came out on March 26th, 2014, so just 6 days after the last version we looked at. And barring that, there's changes in lobby, and we do have a couple changes out at Spire. But another one thing to look at on this version is that there have been many, many editions of Logjam where Hyce gets a weird idea in his head and wants to try it out, and it didn't really work out. People were saying that we needed height by the point, and I was a demo main, and I'd only played in UGC Steel and Silver for a couple of seasons, and I didn't really know that much about sixes, so they said height by point. Well, Snakewater's got a log over point. We kind of got this log theme going on. What if we had what if we have a bundle of logs held up by some cranes over the point? Oh, the cranes kind of ruin the airplay in the mid, and it's kind of awkward and not actually good height, and it doesn't really give you any benefit. Oh, but there are many versions of Logjam where it's, we tried a thing, and then you put it out there and get swatted around for not knowing what you're doing. So that's kind of why you do the structure of putting out the pre-releases or the test versions. Because that way, if I get a wild hair up my butt and want to do a strange idea, I can at least vet it by some players first, and they can tell me, no, Hyce, this is stupid. What are you doing? If you look through the thread, there's a million like, well, what if we did this? And it's like, no, that looks like crap. Where did you get that idea? Well, I thought it was problem X. Well, that's not a problem. Problem Y is the problem. So live and learn. So this is CP Logjam Alpha 9, the name coined by Ordu, who is a friend of mine back in the day. This is it came from the log theme and everything, and it was much more fitting than Uinta because people didn't really know how to pronounce it and thought the name was weird. So we went with Logjam, and it's stuck since. This version is considerably different at second and mid. This is the first time we see the kind of jungle gym spire that Logjam was known for a long time. The big, huge structure in the center of second, and as well pretty tall. But this is kind of a fun amorphous version between the styles of the past versions we've seen, and what's coming up ahead, where, the second kind of starts to feel a little bit more like Logjam second, and last kind of feels like Logjam last, but it's over there instead of over there. Mid's starting to look a little bit more structured, a little bit more like it is as we move on. This is the first time we had a house on mid, and this is another one of those, well, let's try a thing, let's see how it goes. We've got this big high ground and this big pillbox, and then, okay, well, we've got sniper sight lines choke to choke, so why not just put a big fence up, That's a solution. This is the first time it was called Logjam, and this map came out on April 9th, 2014. It kind of, at this point, I kind of got jaded with the map a little bit. People weren't really liking it, and I didn't really know what to do, and I didn't work on it for a couple of months until kind of genius struck it for the next version. So let's move on to that. So this next version coming up is CP Logjam Alpha 10. This came out on June 17th, 2014, and it's kind of a funny story how it ended up happening. I went down to a LAN in Portland, Oregon that was organized by none other than X Television's Eckstein himself, and was excited to go down and play TF2 and meet Eckstein and see what was going on. And I wasn't of age yet. I wasn't 21, and they were having beers in the one room, so I got put at the kids' table, basically, for legality reasons, I'm sure. And they ended up playing a lot of Dota. We played a fair amount of TF2, but they were getting hot into Dota at the time, so they played a bunch of Dota, and I really wasn't into it at the time. And I kind of had an idea pop in my head about the map, so I sat through like 4 or 5 hours of a LAN making this version of the map. Last kind of feels like you know, it hasn't changed considerably, but as you move forward out of last, you'll note lobby looks quite different. It's actually a little complex, but it's getting closer to what we know now. And you walk out, and now the map's straight. And the map looked a lot like this for a long time. This is when we got almost entirely straight. It's got a little bend in it as you go to mid points over there, as opposed to being a straight line like its granary. But log rooms here for the first time. You've got cave, or as the Europeans called it in the day, Gandalf's summer cave. This is the first time the maps really kind of saw the structure that gained a lot of popularity, and it would start to see a lot of work moving forward as it got a lot of attention in the European scene. This is also kind of approaching the first version of Logjam that was played in a league. We have, you know, sightline blocker height structure on mid, but it didn't feel quite right, didn't feel quite genuine, so as it progresses forward, it changes. Very much still alpha, you've got displacements that don't connect to anything, but the general structure, I mean, you come into log room and it's just a big flat L. There's no structure to it, no props. It's just a big freaking L. So, you know, not everything was fleshed out, and cave is super long, but it lived like that for a long time. The jungle gym is a massive pain to climb up, and if you leave the upper left exit from lobby, you're either going up the spire or there's no way up from over here. This is where you go to die. Like, okay, I've put this long, arduous cave, and what am I greeted with? Oh, everyone in the world can just murder me. You know, not some of the best thoughts, but overall, this is what drove the structure of the map to be what it is now. So it's got the little shelf. The little shelf eventually leaves, and it becomes just a square. But the footprint of Spire, as you'll see, shrinks and shrinks over the age. Okay, so this is CP Logjam A14. Came out on June 30th, 2014. This was when the European scene was big into playing the map, and they were playing mixes on it every night. And it was like every other day there was a new version, new ideas. It was a really kind of cool time. Good lord, look at how short this connector is. That is a head hitter. But the cool thing about this version is this is almost exactly how lobby is. You know, obviously you've got the connector and you've got the catwalk and the heights changed, but structure-wise, you've got the shutter and the same entrances otherwise. You've got the beginning of Saw with the angled wall there, and I think the heights are even the same relative to each other, other than, of course, this entrance that gets changed later.
Yeah, this is all starting to look significantly more recognizable.
Yes, and it's funny how long it takes to get there. At some point as well, last actually gets raised like 128 or maybe even 192 hammer units relative to the rest of them. Like, it was too hard to defend off the spire, so last ends up getting considerably taller at some point. This also features the infamous mashed potato. I think it was Oz Fortresses and Kenneth who saw these and said, if you think that people won't call these dick rocks, you are sorely mistaken. To which Cadus replied, hey, that's called mashed potato. That was the official call out. It lived on the map for quite some time. I was attempting to make some sort of cover and didn't really know how to use displacements in a nice enough way to make a good looking thing. So I just copied and pasted some rocks and ended up making some rather phallic structures. You know,
I mean, displacements are a pain in the ass.
Yeah, displacements are, yes, they are. This also is the version that saw the addition of underpants, which was the great call-out. I love the European call-outs for the map. And as well, I think this is when Logroom actually got its name, because it now is a dumb L shape with a pile of logs in it. This is also probably around the first time that Banny started talking to me on the map, because this was his first suggestion that I can recall for the map, was to connect Choke and Cave. And it's funny that that's what it is, because he was the one that was pushing me to do what I did for RC12, and I think it really came out well. So evidently, if I would have listened 6-ish years ago, we could have had a great map then, but, you know, it takes a little time to get through my thick head sometimes. We finally got the houses. This is the first time that the houses are on mid. So Europeans will recognize a lot of this mid. It does change a little bit. We're not quite to the first E2F2L season version, but we're getting pretty close. It had some extra fun extraneous height over here that serves no discernible purpose. I'm not sure who you're fighting when you're over here, but hey, the corner needed filled out, so Okay, so this is CP Logjam A16. Fun trivia about this map. It was unofficially released by Ips himself from Germany on July 4th, 2014. He told me that I needed to make the post with the pretty pictures so that everyone could see it. And so I officially released it on July 5th, 2014. So this is 4 days later than A15 or A14 was. So we've gone through 2 versions in 5 days. It was a fast-paced development time, as I was saying. So this is the first time you see Secret, or Sneaky, for the Euros. So that's finally in here. And as well, you start to see a little bit of changes, add a little bit of height, and would eventually become Saw. Mashed Potato, still alive and well. Finally realized, oh, you know, maybe it's a good idea if we let people get to high ground. Log Room is entirely different now. It actually got called Banana for a bit on this, but the introduction of some of the first super quick Roma rollouts where people would ramp slide up this and go across onto the house.
Let's see if I can... Oh, I got it.
The rollout's almost exactly the same as what it used to be. This is like the first time that you see entrances and exits from Log Room. All right, we're gonna go to beta versions now. Excited! We're gonna skip over beta 1 because beta 1 was basically, look, I textured everything, and there wasn't really any level design. Oh my god, there's textures! And at some point, I realized that if you smoothed out this corner between walls, or between the doors, people could actually, you know, navigate. This is the first time you see the rotation spot behind the point. Start to see a little bit more detail, you know. I mean, it's not spectacularly detailed at this point, but it starts to feel better. And I believe this is also when Last was widened on both sides, so you can see it feels considerably wider than the original, but the structure is about the same. You can actually walk through this lobby door, or lobby connector. It's also the first time you see the height in the middle of the lobby to keep lobby a little interesting. And Saw used to just be massive stacks on stacks of wood. Cave isn't much different, but it may have the sweet slide in this version. Yes, it does. It totally became a, oh, you should just do this. The coolest thing I've ever seen in my life, and I wish that we had a demo of it or something, but in a pickup that we played on it, somebody was pushing in, like their combo was rotating in here right as the roaming soldier came down this, and he rocket jumped from there, pogoed, hit the slide, and Market Garden killed the medic as they were pushing in cave, and it was the coolest play I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's actually incredible.
But I don't think it exists anywhere, unfortunately.
In memory. In
memory. So the big change for this version is mid. Welcome to Viaduct. This was another Banny kind of idea. And, you know, I don't think it actually played half bad, but it wasn't right for the map, I don't think. And it wasn't right for the European scene that was playing the map either. So it didn't end up hanging on long, but some people will recall it. So this version was July 12th, 2014. So this is still not even a little bit more than a week after the Alpha 16 we just looked at. So we're going to Beta 5 now, and Beta 5 came out 5 days later than Beta 2. So 3 versions in 5 days. I was on summer break in college and was at home. Wake up, see the double mixes, you know, around noon, 1 o'clock my time that the Europeans were doing, and have a new version out for them in the morning. It was a pretty fun time as a mapper. The group of guys was really wonderful, and it was a really cool way to iterate and get to update the map. So Last is starting to look a little bit more like Last now. You know, little details. Half the textures are for the wrong team, but you know, we start to see the pillars that are around in the boxes and the windows that are still there to this day, and you know, some of the computers and little details like these pipes. Lobby starts to feel a little bit better. We've got the little shelves to hide on. Some props. It starts to feel a little bit more like home. This is a fun version because of the arch. I started to learn how to make displacements all cool, and everyone got sad about this because it was the
mashed potato. Yeah.
Mashed potato's gone, which is why it's behind you. The memorial of mashed potato. It was gone for one version, and I got so many complaints. Clive, I look at you. That I added it back in outside the playable level. And even in some later versions of Logjam, it was outside. Last, you could see it outside. But some people were complaining because there was a really cool There's a video in the thread still, I think Iridescent Fuzz did it, where you sticky jump off of here and you pogo up these stairs. You could fly through a choke at Mach 10 as Demo Man. It was awesome. Speaking of choke, this is also the first covered choke version. So this is the first time when we realized, okay, maybe soldiers coming down from a quad rocket climb up the side of the map, raining down from the heavens on your medic is not a good feature to have in a map. Also saw another Banny add feature of the little rotation connector into log room, make it a little bit quicker to check and peek from choke. Cave is still cave. Cave was cave for a long time. The mid's pretty much the same as the last version we had as well. Alrighty, so this is CP Logjam Beta 10. This came out September 20th, 2014. So 5 versions in a couple of months. Things kind of slowed down when school kicks in, as always. I believe, I'm not 100% certain, but I believe this is the first time Logjam was in a competitive season. I believe it was played in E2F2L Season 19. It may have been 11 or 12, but they're functionally rather similar. This is the double shutter last. The infamous double shutter with a window to peek, kind of a la Gully Wash. Lots more detailing, starting to feel a lot more like the way it is. Lobby's pretty similar. Saw's pretty similar. This was specifically for this problem right here. You put the long shoot man back here, and he could have seen both log room and choke, and the sightline is still atrocious to choke on this version. This is the big change, though, is the middle control point. This is when we stole Badlands mid, but I believe this is the version played in Season 19 of ETFL. It also sees the forward spawns moving up here, which gives these high grounds a little more purpose, and the ramps that connect them to kind of feel like an actual network. So, fun thing is, between this version and the version played for Season 20 in E2F2L is huge changes. It starts to feel like an entirely different map. And we're just going to jump directly to that. There's a fair amount of stuff done in between. Some of it was test version stuff, some of it was whatever. But we're going to hop right to Beta 19 now. So Beta 10, which we just looked at, came out in September 20th of 2014. Beta 19 came out on February 15th, 2015. So you're talking about almost a 6-month difference between this and the last version. So Spawn's really starting to look like home. This is really looking like modern Logjam now. Minor details aside, you know, we've got the details out there.
There it is.
Still there. I think this is the version where the big details in last came in, when I stole Fee's ideas for Sunshine, I think. The funny thing that I will stand to this day was that I had been designing this at the same time as she was working on the updated Sunshine with the rocket and the hole in the roof and these kind of panels like this. And then she posted in the thread, and I was like, I've already done so much work on this, I'm just going to keep with it, and hopefully nobody cares. So, the pit below point that never gets any highlight, single tier. This is the fun version where you can peek through and see secret through the grate. It's fun stuff. We still have the infamous double shutter last. This is the first time we see the kind of hut over as opposed to the arch, which this eventually morphs into the bats that we know today, but fun structure. And Saw is finally Saw in this version. It looks like it does, much nicer, and we've added the detail area outside. We've added the Logjam to the Logjam. There it is. And this is actually a more modern log room. It gets even more modern than this, but we lived with this version or something quite like this for a long time, where it kind of partitions it off, and you had to add the logs to keep it looking like log room. We added a kind of a second level in choke with displacements that looks kind of terrible to attempt and give some fun counterplay, and also an easier way to push off for attackers, get a little height as they come out. I don't think it was effective. This is when Cave got pretty, finally. I actually really love the aesthetic of this version of Cave. For a long time, this exact fence and prop and everything sat in this place with those rocks and the fake tunnel behind it. That existed through RC11, and it got killed when I got rid of Cave in just this latest version. This is also the start of the infamous Sideshow rollout slidey boxes on the side of mid. I think those came out in Beta 17, but Sideshow put out an amazing video of rollouts where he was rolling out and jumping off of these and doing some absolutely ridiculous bombs with them. This is also the raised. This is the start of having an arched bridge at mid. The flat bridge didn't work out for sightlines and everything, so this is the first time we have the raised bridge that'll eventually turn into a rock arch and kind of limit the underneath the point space. Okay, so those were the two betas, or the two main betas we're going to look at. We're going to move on to RC1. And I will say, in all honesty, Logjam RC1 wasn't truly a release candidate. It was kind of political to get the leagues to get more attention, that it be named RC1. It's not polished or detailed enough to be RC1. I get called out on that a lot, and it is what it is, but people wouldn't pay attention to the map until it was. Obviously, it still wasn't ready, and I've been working on it for eons since this. This is RC1, and this came out July 31st of 2015. So we were talking about, 5 versions of the map within, 5-6 days in some of the early alpha beta days. And we've gone from RC1 to RC12 in approximately 5 years. So RC1, obviously it's a lot more pretty, lots of detail going on, areas fleshed out. The start of the massive wall at last. That lasted many versions. Secret's been pushed down. I don't know if it started on this version, but at some point we added a little height and shoved it down and added this. This room is almost the same as it is now, except the ceiling goes all the way up in later versions, and it's flat until you walk out into lobby to have the descent in lobby to give attackers out of last a little bit more of an advantage. One interesting thing to note is that that at some point, and I'm not sure which version it is, this door and this shelf get flipped, and the shelf ends up in this corner, and then the door starts in the middle. And I don't know what version that happened. I think when we end up getting the smaller spire that's not quite a jungle gym anymore, it caused sightline issues with that through that shutter, yeah. So we ended up changing that. One thing to note on this version is that this is the first time cave was culled, and it would not be the last. This is when we still had cave connecting to choke, but it's much shorter now, and it made it a lot easier to rotate through and flank, but it still was kind of underutilized. And as well, we tried to clean up that little connector piece in choke to make it a little bit more palatable and easy to splash on. And this mid should start to look pretty familiar at this point. This is the more modern exit from log room, where you've got the choice of going 2 routes from the upper door out of log room. And log room starts to feel a little bit more like it did for a long time. We still have the side passages on mid with the large roofs over top, and then the huts, but eventually, as you know, these will become the sheds and the covers will be removed. But this is the first time we've got the rock arch mid, and this is the version that had a lot of extra prop rocks that were very awkward and hard to fight around, but starting to really get close to what it is. And as an RC, I think that's a good thing. The macro changes, there's not too many. We're now moving to RC2A. At some point, I decided rather than saying F for fixed, in case I fucked it up twice, I could just go A, B, C. And so I had to fix something for a real version because I thought people would actually want to play it or something. RC2 comes out January 5th, 2016, so about 6 months in between versions, not quite. So no real differences around last, but we do have the more modern flow through upper left exit. And as well, this is the first time we start to see the upper bats and window kind of exit on second. It was getting hard to push out against the spire, and this is a very awkward version where I didn't really know what to do with the level. And so you've got this little underneath chunk that's just awkward as all hell, and forward spawn is still stuck down here.
Barrel.
The fun thing of barrel on the cliff, that's where it goes. That's detailing, right? One of the fun things on this is not quite modern choke. This is still very displacement heavy, not truly a ramp choke. I revamped it recently, but structure wise, this is basically the modern logjam choke, or at least up until RC12 when we made the little changes to cave. I saw a pickup where 6 players hid in here, and it literally all tried to sack for it, and I'm pretty sure that somebody saw the heal beam and demo tossed 2 stickies down and they were just done. Still have the jungle gym spire. Fun little known fact, this is actually part of the map that was detailed by Fee herself. I had been asking Fee for some help and what she thought what to do, and the little holes in the bridge and everything and the nice little pieces of trim, that was actually Fee's work. She used it and sent me back the VMF and let me use it in the map. And then have the little support beams underneath. She does such an incredible job with detailing. It was an honor to have her help out. So unfortunately, it didn't stay as the level changed, but it was fun in the day. Moving on to RC3. Hey, look, the floor is shining now. Figured out how to use cube maps. There was definitely, I will wholly admit, I'm pretty sure it went until RC that Logjam had one cube map. It just had one until like RC3, I think. It might have been RC2, I don't remember, but there was a point where I was like, I should probably add more of these. When did I say I was a good mapper again? Did I say that? So we're starting to see, this was the awkward version with the awkward triangular cover in lobby, just to mitigate some of the sniper sightlines with the changes we made. Yeah, okay, so this is the first version with the small spire. Spire got clipped off. We kind of actually have the start of what we see as battlements. This is the addition. You see the shed on second, and yeah, the shelf and the door swap, and then attempting to have some sort of sightline blockage that really was just not brilliant. This is also the first time that cave is not really a cave anymore. This is like modern-ish cave where it had the arch put over it, but people still called it cave, and our cute little building from, what was that, Alpha 6 of Uinta? It's still pretty much the same shape. It's a little wider over here to add this little door, and, it's changed a little bit over the years, but still pretty much there. You walk out to mid, and this is starting to look really familiar. This is, again, this was a cool idea by Banny to do the huts and then have the open passages on the side, and this is the first time we really see that, and this is really feeling like modern Logjam mid. Some of the heights are different, and obviously it's been considerably smoothed out since then, but at this point in RC, I'd gotten scared of making huge changes to the map, because I'd made so many changes so quickly over the years, particularly working with E2F2L, that it became the idea that, okay, well, we'll make little changes, little tweaks, and if I do make a big change like this on second, I want to have it thoroughly vetted before I put it out there, just so that hopefully people will respond better to the changes I do make, because there was it was like I was listening to everybody and trying to implement what everyone said, because I just wanted to do the best that I could for the map, and it seemed like everyone's ideas were good. So this is RC4. This actually came out like 2 weeks after RC3, so quicker turnaround, because I kind of had the creative juices flowing, as it were. The motors for the doors are finally mounted to something on this version. Important detail to note. The wall, big wall from over here, has been moved to the other side. Try to smooth things up, pushing in on last. This is the first time you see the catwalk. And I really like this change. I think this really made lobby a lot more dynamic. Infamous box stairs. To all mappers everywhere, if you do this, everyone will hate you. Don't do this. Don't make box stairs. This is the first time we have the 90-degree exit out. I was always so frustrated with sightlines, and I couldn't figure out the sightline all the way from last pushing through on the earlier versions, which is why you had the weird block where you'd kind of wander around. And then it kind of hit me. It's like, just have a sharp turn and you can still have open doors and then not incur the sightline. And then that gives a good safe holding position, or at least I thought so at the time. You could have a disad hold for a defending team on second. You could be ready to get out as they come in, and you could still spam the point considerably. This also featured a bit of a change to the spire. Rather than having the sloped roof, it kind of went to a more flat structure to be better to hold on, because we were seeing a lot of teams just hold on the points, which led to weird bombs being had and not very interesting counterplay. So that was why we kind of added height next to the point. Log room is different. This is the first time we have log room exiting to the one door that then goes to two, as opposed to having the upper and lower in one spot. A fun little bit is that some of the geometry from the old forward spawns remains, because they used to be there. And this version of mid, the geometry is much closer to what it is now, with rather than being up on height and then super high up to you've got this low spot in between to kind of give a little bit of a no man's land where you could push up the one side, you could take height on one side, But to really engage, you'd need to jump in and commit over the no man's land to actually fight in the center to gain control of the objective. So a little bit more thought process going into the mid fights. We're slowly refining this design that we like. So now we're going to skip to RC6. RC5 wasn't a huge deal. RC6 is September 26th, 2018. So this is a year and a half between RC4 and RC6. I don't remember where 5 falls in there, but 5 wasn't really any monumental change. RC6 is of note because this is the version that Oz Fortress picked up. This is the first time Australia and New Zealand play Logjam, and they play it to this day. So this is the first time we've got the new walkway, the ring walkway around Last. We removed the glass. We've added some height on Last. These are the little things we were talking about earlier. How Last had not really changed for a long time. Not until we got to RC6. You add the block over here, a little bit of height to contest with. And then this is also when we see Secret changing and becoming more of a flat room with a ramp down entrance. Kind of keep things level so that teams pushing out of Last can keep their height advantage all the way into lobby. Otherwise, not too much different here. Did I not learn my lesson with the goddamn box stairs? You bet your ass I didn't. This was, hopefully, it was meant originally to be kind of a tedious window to try and play out of, because I didn't want people doing fast mega YOLO bombs coming from nowhere, flying out this window and surprise everybody on second. But we see a little bit expanded bats. You got some cover as well from limiting sightlines, replacing one box set of stairs with a ramp, only to add another. This also sees the addition of the cliff face. The thought was, okay, well, if you have lower height next to the point, everyone's just going to hold on the point because it's the height anyways. This gives you the same height or a little bit better advantage over and a good counterplay to the point, and it keeps it away from the point, so you can kind of have a cool counterplay there. And as well, Spire has been shrunk down to its minimalist form that it still sits at today. Other than being rotated, the ramp is only really easy for attackers to get up, which was not necessarily the problem. This also sees Cave's arch getting pushed back. So it used to be right here in the previous version, but now it's here. And this was to facilitate people bombing out of Cave a little bit easier, so you could jump from here, hit the corner there, and be able to bomb the point with a little bit more velocity. Because Cave was still very underutilized to this point. And it's funny to me that I cut out Cave for being too long at this length, and just remember what it was before. So RC6 was September 26th, 2018, and RC7 was December 11th, 2018, with the feedback from the first Oz Fortress season. There's a period at the end of 2018 and early 2019 where I really kind of cranked out a couple of versions. So Last is primarily the same in this one. We'll push through. Lobby's the same. We'll have the goddamn stairs, but this room is better lit and the geometry is a little bit nicer, and it's got better trim as well. And this is the addition of Sexy Bridge on second. So the bridge gives a good counterplay to Cave. You can help deny people now trying to bomb from there, and as well, you've got height over the point, and it can give a good place to bomb to and bomb from. And this is the start of the new current log room. The only real difference coming up is that the ramp will get clipped off to make more sense and be streamlined, but this is the start of actually having kind of an exciting to flank to play in, little different height changes, and the flow that we know in the current version. It's also seeing the removal of rocks and a replacement with sheds, because rocks are awful to splash on and sheds are a little bit easier. Little quality of life things for the soldier and demo mains in us, because it's hard to make maps not insanely dominant for scouts. Now we're gonna skip a couple and go to RC10A from RC7. Okay, so RC10A came out January 28, 2019. And as well, I believe this is the version that E2F12 ran last year. Some changes, the little piece of height got a little bit less big this time around. We changed how this flows a little bit, make a little bit more sense, remove the super hard corner. Thank God as well. Figured out, yeah, no, it's easier if you put the stairs on the spire this way. The bridge now connects to the structure and wasn't terribly well received. It was kind of interesting, but a little bit too choky to be practical. And then this shows us the nice comparison. Nice new room, this is how it is today, and as well, nicer slope on the corner of mid. And this is when we see the introduction of the high ground on mid, as well as the sniper blocker covers, because getting rid of the rocks and things, and with the change to choke that came in RC10 to make it flatter and smoother and guarantee that you can rocket jump up it and slide properly, we introduced a bit of a sight line, so let's block that. And as well, if you have 3D Sky turned on, I did quite a bit of work to the 3D Sky box so that it actually extends out beyond the map and fills all the gaps. We're now moving to RC12F. The current version of the map came out on May 10th, 2020. Not quite a year between RC11 and RC12, but almost there. I didn't touch it in that period. I didn't get a whole lot of feedback. It seemed like Oz Fortress was happy. E2FL didn't run RC11 again. They removed it from season, and I didn't get a whole lot of feedback from it. So I was just going on things that we came up with and things we heard. Little changes include making the ramp look a little bit nicer. Nothing too exciting there. Rest in peace, Rick. And I found out that they added that model, and I wanted to make sure that I added it as well. Bats get significantly wider now, so that reduces a number of sightlines, and as well it makes this holding area actually really viable now. And it took us many versions, but Cave is finally dead, and we have more Yukon-style double choke than anything else. It's a lot more open. I've played it a couple times, and I really like how it feels to be able to rotate around and kind of spam from this angle as well. It feels really nice to play. But it's been a long road. There have been many versions of Logjam, many test versions of Logjam. Bad ideas, good ideas, things I should have listened to, things I did, things I didn't. But I'm really happy with the levels at. It's been 6.5 years in the making. First version December 3rd, 2013. So it'll be in a couple weeks. It'll be 6.5 years, or 6.5 years, with a lot of hiatus time in there. But it's been fun, and it's great to see the community give the feedback that I want, and it's been really positive to actually get to make something for the community that they like and that they can enjoy. And I'm very happy that Oz Fortress has chosen to continue running it, because that's the whole goal. Was I wanted to do something nice for the community and help out the game that I love so much. So it's a bummer that I can't play it personally, not without 200 ping. But I'm happy that they can play it down under, and maybe someday we'll see it come back to E2F2L or break into RGL. And that would be quite exciting, but who knows? Yeah, I'd like to give shout-outs out to Banny, of course. Banny has been a huge help to me. We've had a lot of one-on-one time looking at the map. He's given me a lot of stream time to look at the map and see what's going on, and always gives me great feedback and great ideas. So he's always been a huge help. I want to give a shout out to Ips, my man. He was the first guy to really believe in it, and gave me a lot of good support back in the early days from E2F2L. I want to give a shout out to all of the Oz Fortress staff, and particularly Catfish, who I've been working with on keeping the map up and running in Oz Fortress. They've been huge helps to work with, super easy, super kind, and get me all the feedback and information I need. So it's been really positive working with them. So those are the main people I'd like to shout out.